I never saw it coming. Honestly, I thought we were solid, that kind of couple that everyone admired or at least talked about with a little envy. We'd been together for 5 years, and our anniversary dinner was supposed to be special. I had planned everything down to the last detail. My wife, Lisa, looked stunning that night, her hair shimmering under the candlelight, her dress hugging her curves just right. I was already feeling that warm glow of happiness, the kind you get when you're sure you're with the right person. We'd been through a lot, but we'd always come out stronger, or so I thought. The night started with champagne and laughter, but as the evening dragged on, I couldn't shake this strange feeling in my gut. Something felt off. Lisa was unusually distracted, checking her phone more than usual, her smile a little too forced when she looked my way. I brushed it off, thinking maybe she was just nervous or tired. Then, out of nowhere, she excused herself to the bathroom. That's when I noticed her phone buzzing nonstop on the table. I hesitated, then reached for it. The screen was unlocked. Stupid move, I know, but I was desperate. Clue. What I saw made my stomach drop. A string of messages between her and Mark, my best friend. They'd been planning this. The timing, the night of our anniversary dinner. They'd been talking about sneaking away together after I left, maybe even doing things I never imagined they would, at least not behind my back like this. I swear I felt my heart stop for a second. The words on that screen burned into my mind. Tonight's the night. I can't wait to finally be with you. My knees went weak. My head spun. I couldn't breathe. I shoved the phone back, my hands trembling. I knew I needed to confront Lisa, but I also needed a second to process what I'd just seen. My mind flooded with memories, good times, plans, trust, all shattered in a flash. I looked at her walking back into the room, her face lit with fake cheerfulness. I didn't say a word. Instead, I excused myself, stood up, and quietly slipped out the back door. Outside, the cold air hit me like a punch. My legs felt like jelly. My chest was tight. I could feel the heat of betrayal spreading through my body. I knew I had to act fast. I pulled out my phone and started digging through her messages, more proof, more details. They'd been talking for weeks, maybe longer, planning their secret rendezvous, secretly deleting messages to hide it from me. I felt sick thinking about how much I'd missed, how blind I'd been. The worst part, the realization that everything I thought we shared was just a lie. I had always trusted Lisa with everything. She was my world. And Mark, my best friend, someone I confided in, laughed with, shared everything. Now I saw them as enemies. That night I made a decision. No more hiding, no more pretending. I would find out exactly what they'd been up to, and I'd make sure they knew I wasn't going to take this lying down. But first I had to play it cool. I had to plan, to think. I couldn't just blow everything up without knowing what I was walking into. The evidence was real, and it was enough to destroy them if I wanted. But revenge, that was the next step. I needed to make them regret ever crossing me. As I stood there in the dark, feeling the cold wind sting my cheeks, I realized this was only the beginning. They might have planned to cheat behind my back, but I was about to turn the tables. I looked up at the night sky, my mind racing, heart pounding. The betrayal was raw, but I knew I'd find a way to even the score. And I was already outlining the next move. I'd make sure they understood that trusting someone isn't a game, and when you break that trust, you better be ready for the fallout. Because I wasn't going to be the fool in their little scheme anymore. Not after tonight. Do you want me to keep going? I spent the next couple of days in a fog, replaying that night over and over. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lisa's smile, her eyes flickering with something that wasn't just happiness, something jagged, almost guilty. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. My stomach was a constant churn, like a storm brewing deep inside. I kept thinking about the messages, the lies, how I'd missed all the signs. It made my blood boil. That feeling of betrayal didn't just sting, it burned. I knew I had to gather more proof, more than just those screenshots. I couldn't just confront her blindly. So I started digging through her social media accounts, emails. I even installed a few apps on her phone, the ones she hadn't deleted yet. I wasn't proud of spying, but I needed certainty. Every little detail mattered now. And what I found only confirmed my worst fears. She and Mark had been sneaking around for months, planning this very betrayal, hiding behind a facade of friendship and family. One night I caught her in a lie. She told me she was working late when I called her, but her phone pinged from a different location, an address I didn't recognize. When I checked, it was a rented 5 miles from our place. My hands clenched into fists. That sneaky little setup was the kind of detail that told me she knew exactly what she was doing. She'd been lying to me all along. I remember the exact moment I decided I needed to confront her face to face, not just react out of anger. I sat her down after work, my heart pounding. The apartment was dead silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. When I looked her in the eyes, I saw the flicker of guilt, but also that stubborn denial that she'd been carrying the weight of her secret. "Lisa," I said softly but firmly, "I know everything. The messages, the lies, the sneaking around. Don't bother denying it. Just tell me, was this planned, or was it just a spur-of-the-moment mistake?" She froze for a second, then looked away. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she whispered. "It just happened. I was confused. I cut her off. "You planned this." "You both did. You've been talking about it for months. Did you think I wouldn't find out?" Her face crumpled. "I didn't want to hurt you. Mark and we—" "Save it," I snapped. "You've crossed a line I never thought you would, so now what? Are you really telling me this was just some stupid mistake?" She broke down then, tears streaming, voice trembling. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I swear I loved you, loved me." I echoed, voice cold as ice. "You've been lying to my face for years, pretending everything was fine." "Well, I'm done pretending. I want out. But before I go, I need to send a message to both of you." That was the moment I decided I wouldn't go quietly. I'd make sure they both paid a price for this betrayal, something they'd never forget. I'd been naive, trusting, but no more. The pain was too raw now, and I was done being the fool. I wanted to make sure they knew I was coming for them, that I wouldn't let this slide. I started plotting my revenge that night, fueled by a mixture of fury and heartbreak. They thought I was naive, that I wouldn't do anything, but I was already planning what would come next. I had to make sure the message was clear, and that meant turning their plans against them, exposing their lies in ways they never saw coming. I knew the first step was to get even more concrete evidence. I needed to know exactly when and where they'd meet next. I wasn't going to leave any room for doubt. They believed I'd be too broken, too hurt to fight back. That's what made this satisfying, knowing I'd catch them off guard. I could already feel the rush of adrenaline, the strange mix of pain and purpose. The betrayal had cut deep, but it also lit a fire under me. I was done holding back. I'd make sure they understood that the pain I felt was only the beginning, and when I finally struck, it would be for myself, for my dignity. The game was on now, and I was ready to play hard. "Do you want me to go on?" Over the next few days, I was all about gathering every piece of the puzzle. I couldn't afford to miss a detail. I started by combing through her phone again, looking for any missed messages, location tags, or digital breadcrumbs that might tell me exactly where she and Mark planned to meet next. I also kept an eye on her social media, her photos, check-ins, anything that might give me a clue. It was like walking a tightrope. Every moment I spent spying felt like a step closer to losing control, but I knew I had to be precise. One evening, I found what I was looking for. A new message popped up on her phone, buried deep in her chat app. It was from Mark. "Tonight's the night. Can't wait to finally be together. Meet me at the old warehouse at midnight." That place had been abandoned for years, dark, creepy, perfect for sneaking around. I felt a jolt of adrenaline. They really were planning something, and I had the time, the place, and the evidence now. I didn't hesitate. The next morning, I mapped out the route, parked my car a few blocks away, and waited. I wanted to see them in action, to confirm my suspicions and get one last look at the faces behind this nightmare. As midnight approached, my stomach was in knots, but I forced myself to stay calm. I didn't want them to catch on, at least not yet. Around 11:45 p.m., I saw her arrive. She was nervous, glancing around, her hands trembling as she checked her phone. Mark was already there, waiting by the entrance of the old warehouse. My heart thumped loudly, echoing in my ears. I watched them exchange a quick, tense greeting before slipping into the shadows to wait. It was surreal watching someone I trusted so blindly move toward betrayal. Then I saw them disappear into the darkness, holding hands. I stayed hidden, the cold wind biting at my cheeks, feeling every ounce of my fury rising. I knew I couldn't just walk in and confront them, at least not yet. I needed to think, to plan my next move carefully. Once they were inside, I slipped back to my car and started drafting the plan in my head. I had everything I needed: photos, timestamps, their next meeting spot. I also had a little idea about how to turn their betrayal into a show they'd never forget. The goal was not just revenge, but making sure they understood the weight of what they'd done. The next step was to set a trap to make them believe I was completely broken, then hit them where it hurt most. I wanted to break their illusion of control, to make this personal in the most public way I could manage. That meant I had to be strategic, patient, and ruthless. I would wait until the right moment, when they thought they got away with it, and then I'd strike. By the time I got home, the plan was clear in my mind. I'd send that final message, the one that would blow everything open. I'd confront her with the evidence, tell her I knew everything, and then reveal what I'd done to turn the tables. I wasn't just hurt, I was furious. And if they thought I was going to let this slide, they had another thing coming. The anticipation was almost worse than the waiting. I could already feel the looming storm, the inevitable fallout. I knew they believed they had control right now, but I was about to remind them who was really in charge. I'd make sure they understood that betrayal has consequences, and I was the one who was going to deliver them. The game was about to change, and I was ready to see it through. Should I keep going? The night I executed my plan, I felt like I was walking a tightrope made of glass. Every step was deliberate, every breath measured. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I wasn't going to just confront them with accusations. No, I wanted them to see, to feel the weight of what they'd done. I spent the day preparing, making sure everything was in place. I sent the final message to Lisa, something simple but loaded. Meet me at the usual place. Need to talk. It was a lie, of course. There was no usual place anymore. I had arranged everything to happen exactly where I wanted. The warehouse was the perfect backdrop for what I was about to set in motion. I parked behind a stack of crates, watching the deserted lot, waiting for them to arrive. At first, the silence was deafening. Then I saw her, Lisa, step out of her car, looking around nervously. Mark followed a minute later. They approached each other silently, their faces tense. I noticed her clutching her purse tightly, her face pale. Mark looked uncomfortable, like he was trying to hide something. They hesitated before entering the warehouse, slipping inside without a word. I stayed hidden, heart pounding, hands clenched into fists. I had a small camera in my pocket, nothing fancy, just enough to catch video and take some photos. I wanted undeniable proof. As they disappeared behind the rusted door, I knew I had to act fast. I took out my phone and snapped a few shots of the empty parking lot, then called the number I had set up earlier for this very moment. It was a burner, one I'd kept hidden from her, and I pressed send. The message was simple: it's done. They're inside the old warehouse, ready to blow everything wide open. I waited for a moment, then slipped out of my hiding spot and started walking toward the edge of the lot. I didn't want to go in just yet. I wanted to let them get comfortable, to believe I was still just a ghost, someone they could forget about. From the shadows, I watched her packing inside the warehouse, her phone glued to her ear. Mark leaned against the wall, eyes darting around nervously. I could feel my adrenaline spike. This was it. I'd set the trap, and now I was the one holding all the cards. I kept my distance, but I knew the moment was near. I had arranged for a friend to be nearby, ready to record everything once I gave the signal. My plan was simple but devastating. I'd reveal everything I knew at the right moment. I'd send the proof to everyone, their friends, family, whoever needed to see it. I'd make sure they understood that betrayal isn't just a scar, it's a wound that festers. I saw her finally sit down on a rusted crate, her head in her hands. Mark was packing, clearly nervous. They hadn't noticed I was watching. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of everything: the pain, the anger, the resolve. This was going to end tonight. I was tired of being the victim, tired of feeling like I had to hide my pain. Suddenly her head snapped up and she looked directly in my direction. I froze, heart pounding so loudly I could hear it. I hadn't expected her to see me, yet there she was, staring straight at me through the darkness. I didn't move. I just stared back, knowing this was only the beginning of everything. In that silent moment, I realized she was realizing she'd been caught. No words were spoken, but that look, Her eyes wide with shock, guilt, and something else I couldn't quite name said everything. The game was over. I had finally taken control. I pulled out my phone, ready to send the final message that would shatter their world. Would they ever recover from this? I didn't know. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let them walk away without consequences. They'd hurt me deeply, but I was about to make sure they paid for it. The night was still. Young, and I was about to turn their entire plan inside out. Do you want me to continue? The moment I hit send on the final message, a strange calm washed over me, like I'd finally crossed a line I'd been tiptoeing around for days. The proof was out there now. Every text, every plan, every whispered promise they'd made in the shadows. I watched her staring at her phone, her face drained of color, eyes darting around nervously. Mark was still packing, sweat beading on his forehead. They knew I'd seen everything. I stepped out of the shadows slowly, letting the harsh glow of my phone light my face. Well, I said, voice hoarse but steady. Didn't think I'd catch you guys like this, huh? Lisa's eyes widened. She looked like a deer caught in headlights, her body trembling. Mark's face was grim, trying to hide his panic. I could see the guilt etched on both their faces like scars, but I wasn't interested in their apologies right now. I wanted them to understand that I had taken back every ounce of power they thought they had. You thought you could sneak around behind my back and get away with it, I continued, voice rising just enough to cut through the night. All those little lies, the secret meetings, the texts, I've got it all now, and it's going to change everything. Her lip trembled. Please don't do this. We were just, oh, save it, I snapped. You think I was born yesterday. You planned this together. You betrayed me in the worst way possible, and I've got the evidence to prove how deep this went. I held up my phone, showing her the screenshots of their messages. Look at this, you both thought you could get away with it. Mark finally spoke, voice thick with regret. Look, man, we screwed up. We didn't mean for it to go as far as it did. It was a mistake. A mistake. I interrupted, voice icy. A mistake is forgetting your keys or burning dinner. This is betrayal, and I'm done pretending it didn't happen. My chest felt tight, my fists clenched so hard I thought I'd break my fingers. You two thought I'd just sweep this under the rug, huh? Like I wouldn't find out. Well, guess what? I've decided I don't want to be part of your sick little game anymore. I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. Then I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small envelope. Here, what's going to happen now? I've documented everything, proof, photos, everything. I'm going to send this to your friends, your family, anyone who needs to see what kind of people you really are. Because trust me, they'll want to know the truth. Lisa's eyes flooded with tears. Please, I never wanted it to be like this. I was stupid, I was confused, I love you. You love me, I scoffed. You've been lying to me for months. Love doesn't look like this. Love doesn't involve secret meetings and lies. Love is honesty, not betrayal, and I'm done with it, done with both of you. Mark looked away, swallowing hard. I felt a strange mixture of relief and anger. This was the end. I'd finally taken back control, and I wasn't going to let them manipulate me anymore. I want you both to leave, I said coldly. And don't come back, not to apologize, not to try and fix this, because I'm done. I'm done pretending I didn't see the truth, and I'm done being the fool in your twisted game. They hesitated, then slowly started backing away, their faces hollow, eyes red from crying or guilt. I watched them get into her car, then took a deep breath as I closed the door behind them. The night felt thick, heavy, with a strange sense of liberation. I had finally faced the pain head-on, and I'd come out on the other side. As I stood there alone in the dark, I realized something. This was my turning point. I wasn't just hurting anymore, I was free. I'd survived betrayal that felt like a dagger to the heart, and now I had the power to rebuild better, stronger, wiser. The next step was clear. I was going to start fresh. I grabbed the envelope containing all the evidence and walked straight to my mailbox. With a steady hand, I dropped it inside. No more secrets. No more lies. Just the truth out in the open. And in that moment, I knew one thing for sure. Sometimes, the only way to heal is to hit back hard, to make them see that betrayal isn't just a scar, it's a wound that needs to be cleaned out. And I was finally doing the cleaning. Would you like me to finish with the final installment? The aftermath hit me like a thunderclap, but in truth, I've been bracing for it since I first found out. The moment I handed over that envelope with all the proof, screenshots, messages, dates, I felt a strange weight lift. It was like finally exhaling after holding my breath for days. I watched her face as the realization sank in, that everything was out in the open, exposed, undeniable. Her eyes wide, trembling lips, that defeated look. She knew she'd lost. Mark's face was equally defeated, shoulders slumped as he looked at the ground. I didn't say a word to them as they walked away, just watched and let the silence fill that space, the only sound the faint crunch of gravel under their hurried steps. I closed my eyes for a second, feeling the cold wind brush past, and let it all settle into my bones. This was over, and honestly, I felt more alive than I had in months. Back inside, I sat on the couch, heart racing but somehow lighter. I kept replaying everything: the betrayal, the lies, the plan I'd orchestrated with such precision. All the pain I'd swallowed, all the anger I'd bottled, now finally out of my hands. I turned their game against them, and it felt cathartic, the kind of relief that sneaks in slow, then hits you all at once. I knew some people might say I overreacted, that revenge isn't the answer, but I didn't see it that way. To me, this was about reclaiming what was stolen: my dignity, my trust, my peace. I was done being the victim in their twisted story. I had written my ending, and it was one of truth. The next few days were a blur of mixed emotions: guilt, anger, sadness, sure, but also a strange sense of empowerment. I cut ties with Lisa immediately, blocked her number, deleted her from social media. I told her I never wanted to hear from her again. Mark, same. I didn't want to see their faces or hear their excuses. They made their choice, and I was choosing to move forward without them. People around me noticed the change, too. Friends who'd been worried about me saw the fire in my eyes, the newfound strength in my posture. I didn't hide the pain, but I didn't let it define me either. I talked openly about what happened, not for sympathy, but to remind myself that I was still standing, still whole. It was a hard lesson, but necessary. Looking back, I realized that the betrayal was a gift in disguise. It forced me to confront my limits, to stand up and take control. It made me realize how much I'd been giving away: my trust, my patience, and how much I deserved better: the revenge. It wasn't just about hurting them. It was about healing myself by showing that I wouldn't be broken by lies. Now I focus on rebuilding. I'm reconnecting with old friends, rediscovering hobbies I'd set aside. I'm learning to trust again, slowly, carefully, but this time smarter. I know not everyone deserves my trust, and that's okay. The pain taught me that. It also taught me that sometimes the best way to move forward is to face the darkness head on, then step into the light knowing you've claimed your space. And honestly, I feel freer now than I ever did before. No more secrets, no more betrayal lurking in shadows, just me standing firmly in my truth. That's the real victory. To anyone reading this and feeling crushed by betrayal, know this: you're stronger than you think. Revenge isn't about destruction, it's about reclaiming your power. And sometimes the best revenge is simply walking away with your head held high. Because in the end, your peace is worth more than any lie. This is how I took back my life. And I hope, wherever you are, you find your strength too.